So we open with a group of pirates doing what pirates do best, stumbling into places they absolutely should not be. They've accidentally wandered into some cursed territory that's been locked away for 3,000 years. Before these guys can even process what they've gotten themselves into, demonic hands start bursting out of mirrors like the world's worst magic show. One by one, these pirates are getting dragged into the glass. The lone survivor is standing there watching this supernatural horror movie play out in real time, and his face has gone completely white. Now their leader Tain steps up to handle the situation.
I am the only devil here.
He shoots the one guy trying to escape. Cold as ice, Tain tells his remaining men that he's the only one in charge here. The man has clearly never heard of reading the room, because literally as those words are leaving his mouth, a massive door behind him starts creaking open. He marches right through that door. Inside, he finds exactly what he was hoping for: piles of enchanted spirit gems scattered all over the floor. This is like Christmas morning for a guy like Tain. But here's where things get interesting. The moment he steps inside to claim his prize, that door slams shut behind him. And immediately, we hear his men outside getting absolutely destroyed, screaming chaos the whole 9 yards. Tain pauses for exactly 3 seconds, and I'm being generous here, before deciding that his treasure hunt is more important than his crew's survival. He kneels down and scoops up a handful of gold coins, probably feeling pretty good about himself. That satisfaction lasts about as long as you'd expect, because suddenly there's a dried corpse right in front of him, skull dripping with black liquid. The temperature drops so fast that frost starts creeping along the walls, and that's when Tain realizes he might have made a slight miscalculation. Out of nowhere, countless black shadows start emerging from every corner. They're circling him, making these bone-chilling shrieks that would make anyone with basic survival instincts run for their lives. These shadows swirl together like some twisted tornado and converge on a throne in the distance. From this shadow storm materializes a dark, robed demon envoy.
What are you?
The demon envoy starts explaining the situation. Tain insists he never made any deals with demons, but the envoy drops some uncomfortable truth on him. The moment Tain started killing people for jewels and treasure, his soul was already marked for hell. It's like a cosmic subscription service that he never remembered signing up for, and now the bill has come due. Tain naturally refuses to accept this. The envoy summons a sword forged from literal hellfire and prepares to end this conversation permanently. But Tain manages to break free at the last second, blocking the blade with his dagger. He's snarling about how nobody can take his soul unless he allows it, which is adorable considering he's fighting a demon with supernatural powers. This fight goes about as well as you'd expect. Tain can do nothing but retreat. Fast forward 1 year later, and Tain has made it back to England. But this isn't the same confident pirate we met at the beginning. This man is terrified. He's hiding in a remote monastery, and get this, he's donated all his remaining wealth to the church in exchange for sanctuary. But even surrounded by holy symbols, he can't find peace. Every single night, his dreams drag him back to hell. The poor guy is getting 0 sleep and maximum trauma. The priest at the monastery starts sensing that something dark is growing stronger by the day. He prays for guidance, and God gives him a pretty clear answer. Tain's fate doesn't lie in hiding at the church. If he stays, the entire monastery is going to suffer for it. So the priest, probably very politely, tells Tain he needs to leave and fulfill his destiny. For a man being hunted by demons, this is basically the worst possible news.
I'm learning to be a man of peace.
There's nowhere left to run, nowhere left to hide. But this is the moment when Tain finally understands something important. Hiding won't bring him redemption. So he gathers his things and sets out on what he hopes will be the path to salvation. The world outside is still ravaged by war, with the air reeking of burning corpses. It's not exactly the ideal time for a spiritual journey, but Tain doesn't have much choice. Not long after he starts traveling, he encounters 3 bandits who strip him of everything he owns. They don't find anything valuable, just strange symbols drawn all over his belongings. These bandits are convinced he's some kind of sorcerer, so they beat him up and prepare to burn him alive. Here's the thing though, Tain doesn't fight back. He knows that the moment he kills again, that demon envoy will return to collect his soul. So he's willing to die rather than fall back into his old ways. Fortunately, fate decides to throw him a bone. A traveling family rescues him, William and his loved ones. While washing by the river, William's daughter Meredith sees the strange markings on Tain's skin. Instead of being frightened, she's actually intrigued by them. This family is genuinely kind and sincere, and their warmth stirs something inside Tane that he hasn't felt in years. He starts remembering his childhood, how his father favored his older brother and stripped Tane of his inheritance. That's what turned him into a wanderer and eventually a thief. But deep down, he regrets all of it. Inspired by William's kindness, Tane decides to repay their generosity. The group arrives at a village that's been completely destroyed, with corpses scattered everywhere. Clearly, demons had just passed through like the world's worst traveling circus. While searching for survivors, they discover a little girl who appears to be alone and helpless. Everyone feels sorry for her, but Tane notices something off about the situation. He steps forward and reveals a cross, and suddenly the girl's eyes change. They're no longer innocent. She grabs Meredith's hand and says the most chilling thing possible, "You're the one we've been looking for." As she speaks, a black symbol burns itself into Meredith's palm. The girl drops her disguise, transforming into a hideous old witch. She tells Tane that the demons are waiting for him, then rises into the sky and dissolves into a flock of crows. Tane thinks the immediate danger has passed, but this is just the beginning of the demon's plan. He stares at the dark mark on Meredith's hand, and a deep sense of dread settles in. This mark isn't just a symbol, it's a target. Not long after, a group of possessed humans attacks, capturing William and his family. A masked rider arrives on horseback, clearly intent on taking Meredith away. Tane appears to help, but the demon's plan is specifically designed to push him into violence. The possessed soldiers start killing William's family members one by one. Tane, consumed by rage, lifts his arms toward the sky and cries out to God.
Is this all I am to you?
He declares that even if it costs him his soul, he no longer cares about the consequences. He launches himself into the fight, stealing a dagger and unleashing the brutal counterattack that everyone knew was coming. The demon soldiers panic and flee, but in all the chaos, Tane fails to notice that the masked figure has already snatched Meredith. He throws a sack over her head and disappears into the shadows. Her brother tries to stop them, but gets stabbed through the heart by a possessed enemy. Tane wipes out the last of the monsters and immediately charges after the masked rider. But even someone as determined as Tane can't outrun a horse, and the kidnapper escapes with Meredith. When Tane returns, William is gravely wounded and barely clinging to life. With his final breath, he makes Tane promise to save his daughter. He tells him that if he succeeds, Tane's soul will finally be redeemed. Only after hearing Tane swear this oath does William let go and pass away in peace. William's wife hands Tane a pocket watch, William's final keepsake. Out of gratitude for their kindness and his feelings for Meredith, Tane picks up a sword from the ground, throws on his black cloak, and sets off to face the demons. On his journey, Tane encounters an ambush of possessed puppets, but he makes quick work of them. Soon after, he spots a group herding captured villagers. He strikes them down swiftly, but Meredith isn't among the prisoners. For 3 days, Tane tracks the demons endlessly, but every trail comes up cold. Even the rescued villagers claim they've never seen Meredith. As night falls, Tane stumbles upon a dilapidated old church. Inside, at the center, stands a crucifix with the image of Christ. Tane drops to his knees and whispers a prayer of repentance. Behind him, a figure silently appears in the shadows. Just as this person prepares to strike, Tane turns and catches him. The man claims to be a priest, saying this ruined chapel is his refuge. As darkness falls outside, the priest tells Tane he's seen terrifying things, but there's madness in his eyes that makes it hard to believe anything he says. Suddenly, Tane hears strange noises outside and reaches for his weapon, thinking it's another ambush. But the priest calmly tells him the demons aren't outside. They're inside. Before Tane can react, the priest leads him to the entrance of an underground cellar. By the dim torchlight, Tane sees them, mindless, cursed puppets writhing in the shadows. He moves to destroy them, but the priest stops him. These people, he explains, were once human. They've only been cursed, not killed. Tane is confused by this revelation. Then suddenly, the priest shoves him into the cellar, intending to feed him to the monsters. This is definitely not the kind of hospitality you'd expect from a man of God. Tane fights for his life as the puppets swarm him, but just then, a mysterious figure sneaks into the church and kills the treacherous priest. Using only his sword, Tane hacks his way through the horde of cursed beings. But the moment moonlight touches them, their skin begins to smoke and sizzle. Tane has no time to rest, though. A new group emerges from the woods, followers of the masked villain. To his surprise, they're the same 3 bandits who had once robbed him. They're thinking Tane is still the same helpless wanderer they encountered before, so they start taunting him again. 5 seconds later, only one of them is still standing. Tane seizes the survivor, demanding to know Meredith's location. The bandit laughs and tells him that Meredith is dead. This news sends Tane into a rage that consumes all reason. Without hesitation, he kicks the man into the cellar, feeding him to the cursed puppets. Then Tane collapses in front of an angelic statue, completely broken and hopeless. Tane turns to alcohol. He drinks day and night, drowning in self-loathing and sorrow. One night, 2 men recognize him, former comrades from his old pirate crew. They try to awaken the old Tane, urging him to lead them in a rebellion against the cursed army. But Tane tells them that man is long dead. What remains is just a drunk haunted by a lost soul. That same night, Tane is captured and nailed to a crucifix by the masked villain himself. Steel spikes are driven through his hands and feet, but Tane doesn't scream. Not because he's tough, but because inside he already feels dead. He's left hanging in the rain, the water washing over his wounds and his soul. Then something miraculous happens. A wagon rolls by carrying prisoners, and among them is Meredith. She's alive. Their eyes meet. And one glance is all it takes. Tane, filled with new strength, tears himself free from the nails and falls to the ground. A puppet steps forward with its blade raised. Once, Tane could have taken on 10 of them without breaking a sweat, but now he's too weak to fight. As the puppet raises its weapon, Tane's old comrades return just in time to save him. When he next opens his eyes, a witch is standing over him. She's not just a healer, she can also see the future. Once his wounds heal, Tane leads his men through the sewers to a dark castle. This place was once his childhood home, now transformed into the lair of the cursed. His father had been slain here by the puppets, and now Tane has returned to rescue Meredith and avenge his family. As they emerge from the tunnels, the witch from before suddenly appears, waiting for them. But before she can even speak, Tane hurls his sword through the air, impaling her and sending her straight to the underworld. He's clearly done with supernatural surprises. The cursed warriors lying in wait burst forth, clashing with Tane's crew in a brutal battle. Thanks to fighting for justice, Tane's crew holds the upper hand. But then the castle gates open, and out steps the masked villain, Tane's true opponent. They exchange blow after blow until Tane is knocked down. But this is all part of his plan. Spotting a door behind him, Tane kicks himself backward, breaking through and vanishing into the castle halls. Relying on childhood memories, Tane slips past the guards and reaches a hidden dungeon. There, he finds his father old but alive. For a moment, all past bitterness melts away. Tane apologizes, insisting he never meant to hurt his brother, that the accident was never intentional. But his father reveals the horrifying truth. The cursed puppets were born from a mistake that he and Tane's brother had made. Tane's brother had survived the fall from their childhood accident, but was gravely injured. Desperate to save his son, their father turned to a sorcerer. The sorcerer brought the boy back from the brink of death, but the process left him horribly disfigured. The brother wore a mask to hide his face, and in time, he gave in to the darkness. He learned sorcery himself and started turning people into his puppets. In that moment, Tane realizes the masked villain he's been fighting is his own brother. To end the curse, their father asks Tane to take his life, knowing that since it all began with him, it should end with him too. Tane enters the chamber where Meredith is being held. At the center sits a ghostly man with dreadlocks and runes scrawled across half his pale face. This is the sorcerer his father warned him about. The sorcerer says he's been waiting for Tane. After speaking a few cryptic words, he vanishes in a puff of black smoke. Tane rushes to free Meredith, but a blade pierces his shoulder and lifts him into the air. The masked villain has arrived. Tane tries to speak to the brother he once knew, but that person is long gone, completely devoured by darkness. He tells Meredith to run, but the sorcerer appears again, revealing that Meredith was never actually the target, it had always been Tane. Behind the sorcerer, a giant mirror pulses with energy. Inside, a sealed demon stirs, starving for a soul. The sorcerer explains that once Meredith's blood touches the mirror, the demon will be freed and Tane's soul will be dragged to hell. Realizing this, Tane makes one last desperate plea, begging his brother to fight the darkness alongside him. But his brother won't listen. The two fight fiercely, and Tane manages to plunge 2 blades into his brother's gut. But it has no effect. The darkness has made him something beyond human. Meanwhile, the sorcerer drags Meredith to the mirror. He slices the mark on her palm, letting her blood spill onto the surface. The seal cracks open, and a demon born of molten rock and brimstone steps out, ready to capture Tane's soul. For the first time in this entire story, Tane feels true fear. He ducks and darts, using the environment to stay alive. Then he steps before the sorcerer and offers his soul in exchange for Meredith's freedom. The demon looms behind him with its claw raised, but in that instant, Meredith breaks free and shoves the sorcerer aside. Tane seizes the moment, one bullet to the sorcerer's head, and his blood sprays across the mirror. A violent force erupts, pulling the demon and all of Tane's sins back into the abyss. It's finally over. William hadn't lied about redemption being possible. The priest hadn't banished Tane from the monastery. God had simply told him that Tane must find redemption for himself. Tane returns Meredith to her mother, but he knows this battle wasn't the last. True evil never rests, and there are always more people who need saving. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed watching a pirate learn that shooting your crew is bad, actually. I'll see you next time, hopefully with fewer people getting dragged into demon mirrors.